money laundering.
Yes,
18 plus.
Yes, look, the pun was there on purpose.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I've got Cameron this morning. Hey, Cameron, I got a question for you, brother. Have you had too much winning yet? Are you tired of winning?
Man, honestly, the deep state should have just let Trump win in 2020. They should have.
Yeah, they'd have been much
because
better off.
Coming back in 2024. Because coming back in 2024 with everything that's happened, like Trump is completely out of fracks to give, like completely, and it shows.
The Donald is back. He is so back. I bought this house last year.
He's so back, he's lapped himself.
Yeah, I bought this house last year in May. I've already, just yesterday, we signed closing paper to refinance this thing to get the interest rate on my mortgage down almost 2 full points, right? In just about 6 months, just over 6 months. I mean, wow. Now, in fairness, mortgage interest rates have spiked up another 0.5 point since I locked in my rate over a month ago. But I mean, it was like that. Just as soon as he won, it was, oh, well, look at that. The whole world's economy is adjusting to, optimism. So what happened? We talked a little bit about tariffs yesterday, Mario and I did, but we were looking at the salt on X and all the just Trump's crazy. Tariffs are gonna wreck our economy. They're gonna raise all your prices and turns out, like everybody who's read The Art of the Deal recognized, tariffs are a big ask. And they work for the same reason America having Moabs works. Because every foreign leader on the planet looks at Donald Trump behind that resolute desk in the Oval Office and says, no. He'll do it. We've synced it.
Right. You know, we only dropped 2 nukes on Japan, and the only reason we dropped the second one on Japan was to let them know, no, we're serious. We didn't have to drop any more after that. Japan surrendered PDQ after that happened, and it's the same principle here. Like Donald Trump dropped exactly 1 Moab, and everybody went, well, okay, maybe we should talk. Yeah, maybe you should talk. Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Putin annexed territory under Bush, under Clinton, Bush, Obama. Then there was a little pause
for about 4 years. For
and
about 4 very
office
years,
shut down the Keystone XL, shunted all the money from that to the Nordstrom, and essentially funded the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Putin invaded Ukraine because Joe Biden and the Democrat Party wanted to have it's basically a mana sink. It's a mana dump. It's somewhere that you can put your extra resources at the end of the turn.
So you don't get mana burned.
So you're not sitting there, right? So you're not sitting there getting mana burned or sitting there with untapped land that didn't get spent on advancing your mechanisms. And so, we got a report. Zelensky just over the weekend said, America sent $177 billion to aid in Ukraine. We've only seen $75 billion. We don't know what happened to the other $100 billion. You don't say. U.S. aid.
Boy, Well, and I do want to actually talk about the specifics here and maybe even get to some of the topics. And I'd love to send you a couple of memes that I thought were just really funny that I think it would be fun to review. But what Trump is doing here is actually incredibly intelligent. There's historical precedent for it. There is a reason why more and more people are comparing Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan. It's not just that they have the vectors in Hollywood. Oh, it covers it up. It says smells like bitch in here.
It smell like bitch in here.
It's not just the vectors through Hollywood and even marriage scandals and all of that kind of stuff. They're both optimistic, very much America first, and they both understand that America's greatest weapon is its economic engine. So when Reagan and I would invite everybody to read Ronald Reagan's diaries. He made it a point to keep a diary while he was in the White House, and the things that have not had to have been redacted for national security reasons or out of sensitivity to the family were eventually compiled and put together in a book that's fascinating to read, even if you know the history of it, because you see where Reagan is coming from in a very personal way. And he was legitimately afraid, at least according to his diary, that we might be looking at a real end time scenario with the Soviets, because there were times where there were things where they had military supremacy over us. And that's not my saying it. That's in Ronald Reagan's diary. Like, he was literally worried about biblical conflict that wouldn't just kill America and Russia, but basically the entire world. And his strategy was to be tough. Okay, this is the situation that we're in. I'm going to play hardball with these guys. And specifically, what he did is he ramped up our military spending. He essentially said, I'm going to basically abuse our economy, because Russia will not want to lose ground on the areas where it has military supremacy. And Russia will also ramp up its military spending in order to compensate, to keep the balance of power in check. And Reagan bet that because we had a better economy, we could keep spending money and essentially bankrupt the Russians. And it worked. So when Donald Trump does this with tariffs, yes, anybody with half a brain knows that a trade war with tariffs are bad. Okay, bad for all the countries involved, bad for all the countries that do business with any of the countries involved. Nobody's going to dispute that. Okay, but when like a third of the Canadian economy revolves around American stuff, and when like 1.4% of our economy revolves around Canadian stuff, yeah, okay, fine. We could take that 1.4% hit. Can you guys take the 35% hit? Because I get the feeling you guys can't take the 35% hit. And let's not forget, we have states with bigger economies than Canada's national economy. So yeah, Trump came in and said, you know, I'm going to do what Reagan did. I can outspend these guys. It's the bully strategy in poker. If you have more money than everybody else at the poker table, you should win that poker game, because you could keep raising everyone out of their comfort zone in every betting scenario. You can win with losing hands because the other guy doesn't feel confident about going all in on his pocket aces, because you might be holding the full boat and he can't take the chance. Whereas you having the biggest pile of chips, even if you take the loss, you can keep right on playing. And yeah, and I see somebody mentioned the drug war with Reagan. That's not really relevant to the point that I'm making. I hear you. We're trying to do better about spinning off and down different rabbit holes on this show, because that's a thing we do occasionally sometimes. But what's important here is presidents have done this before. It worked. It's working again. It worked even faster than I thought it would. Like, can you picture the phone call? Like, that Mexican president called Donald and said, listen, Donald, please. I hear you. I see you.
Please don't collapse my economy.
I promise. We talk a lot. We talk a lot. Can you just just relax. I promise. And then boom, she's sending 10,000 National Guard to the border. Now,
Oh, yeah. Well, Trudeau put this tweet out. I just had a good call with President Trump.
exactly.
Canada's implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. He will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. And the proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. And I love that. Donald Trump didn't say, okay, cool, got my concessions. No tariffs. No. There's another page from the Reagan book, Trust But Verify. Okay.
Right.
30-day pause. Let's see if you're good to your word. Do what you said you're going to do, and then we'll talk again.
Yeah. Show me some progress.
Yep.
And that's what it is. That's part of why we wanted a businessman in the White House, because a businessman, he doesn't just understand it's a big ask. He also understands that in the real world, even if somebody says they're going to give you everything you want, very rarely can they deliver on that promise. But they can try. And now, Chris and I have both been in commission sales, and you hear this expression in commission sales. And it says, if you're really trying to make sales, you'll never have to explain to somebody that you're really trying to make sales. And
right.
And that's what's going on here. They're very
on the other side of that. On the other side of that, the sale's been made, the contract's been signed. Guys, I no longer. When I first started doing video production, I had a payment model where I would take 25% up front to secure the date, because if for whatever reason you cancel on that date, I just lost a day that I'd be making money. I just lost. So I'd secure 25% up front, and then I'd take another 25% on the day of the shoot, and then I'd take 50% on delivery. And I would have people that would just at the end, all the work is done. And I've had more than one customer say, you know what, we've changed our minds. And they would even ask me to refund them the first 50%, which of course, no, I made you sign a contract that said that's non-refundable, non-negotiable. But no, before I start doing an edit on a video project, I've been paid in full, or there's no more work happening. Right. So that trust but verify, right? You cannot trust somebody. You cannot afford to trust a person who, in the end, has all the leverage.
Yeah. So, and by the way, I did the impression of the Mexican president because I don't know that I could do an impression of a big enough bitch to do an impression of Justin Trudeau. I saw a fantastic tweet that said Donald Trump is 0-4 against female opponents are 0-4 against Donald Trump.
Yeah, one of my favorites right after he won the election was the repeated meme. Donald Trump beat more women than Doug Emhoff.
Yeah, of course, Justin Trudeau was listed as one of the women that he had beaten. Yeah. But yeah, this is look, for all the people that say tariffs don't work. Well, it depends on what you're trying to use a tariff for. You use the right tool for the right job. You don't use a flathead screwdriver on screws that have star bits, because that won't work. And a lot of people don't know this, that for some reason it's conveniently left out of history books that are approved by the Department of Education. Trying to throw me. It's left out of history books that are approved by the Department of Education. But we used to fund our government. with tariffs and usage fees. There was no income tax, and somehow, shit got paid for. I don't know. It was like a magic trick. But putting that aside, whether or not we could fund the government by radically changing our tax model, hint, we could. Also, by the way, conveniently, Donald Trump's now talking about dismantling the Department of Education. And, buddy,
I've been banging that drum since I was stranded in the Department of Education.
And look, look, seriously, harder than Chinese algebra, people. Okay,
Right.
Like seriously, you could use that thing as a club to go win wars.
Yeah, I haven't been this excited since the first time I put my thumbs on a butterfly. It just makes me happy.
But Donald Trump is using the tariffs as leverage. He's adopting the Reagan model. They're like, okay, you guys want to screw around? Fine. We'll have a trade war. We'll see who wins. We'll see who wins a trade.
And you mentioned the U.S. Department of Education. Perhaps the greatest indictment of the efficacy and value of the Department of Education is this. There are Americans today who believe that the Department of Education has had a positive impact on their lives.
And by the numbers, it hasn't. You roll the clocks back about 60 years, and the USA was number 1, number 2, or number 3 in every metric. Every reading, writing, math, graduation rates. Yeah. Now we're nowhere close to any of those numbers. Like the longer the Department of Education has existed, the worse the American education system has become.
And it's like so many other Democrat policies that fall on the wrong side of Hamlin's razor. It's very difficult to look at the consistently declining results from the Department of Education and come to any logical or reasonable conclusion other than it's intentional. Essentially, the Department of Education is a Democrat boondoggle that was designed to sabotage the American citizen and the American education system. It was created to give you the corrupted institutions that you have today.
Right. So anyhow, the way Donald Trump is using tariffs, I would say the proof is in the pudding.
And I like pudding.
And this is what they're there for. Like this is how to use them. And what's crazy to me is anybody with half a brain, we're like, Donald Trump's not going to just tariff the entire world willy-nilly. That's never going to happen. He's using this as a negotiating tool. But you got to understand, and it goes back to the Moab thing. People believe Donald Trump will drop the second Moab because he dropped the first Moab. Correct. Nobody doubts for half a second that Donald Trump would tariff a country at 30% just to say, nope, sick of your bullshit, sick of it. So why don't you just have a tariff? You know what? Call me in 30 days if your phone lines still work. Whoa! We're sorry.
Let me remind you guys, right here are the imported American products Canada took aim at with tariffs. Right? Yogurt, roasted coffee, certain prepared meals, chicken, or those with defined mixtures. This is a long list of American products that, oh, by the way, Canada gets the majority of their toilet paper from us, so that could be fun. We should go TP Canada. But yeah, long list of Canadian products that are, of American products. Oh, by the way, this is from November of last year. And they've had these tariffs in place for a long time. Canada is currently extracting over 300% in tariffs on American dairy and similar products. so the, you know, and they're not the only ones, right? There are many countries worldwide that are extracting huge tariffs on American products being sent to those countries and crying like little bitty babies about America talking about using tariffs generally. Because what's been happening for decades now is the intentional and architectural extraction of American labor and American wealth. There is not a country today, especially those that have the liberal dream of quote free health care, not one that is not heavily subsidized by American taxpayer money. They're having their NGOs funded by USAID, or were. We're covering their expenses for NATO and the UN. We're managing and covering their national defense and national security costs. We are subsidizing the entire way of life of the entire planet. That's all straight American wealth extraction, right? You know, when you look at your tax bill, I want you to stop and think to yourself, when's the last time I drove on a road that was in good repair? Because it doesn't take dramatically deteriorated roads when you're driving. Like Cameron and I both had jobs where we drive 100 or 200 miles in a day, right? Every day through the course of the job. It doesn't take roads being just complete Swiss cheese for that to cost you a fortune. But your tax dollars were supposed to fix those. You know, Domino's will do it, but your government won't, right? The extraction of American wealth, it's got to end. Let's take a moment. I've got a clip from JD Vance talking about this.
Now, actually, I was in the air. I talked to the president very briefly about this. He spoke with the president of Mexico this morning, and the president of Mexico committed to putting 10,000 additional Mexican troops on that southern border, our southern border, of course, the Mexicans' northern border, to take law enforcement more seriously, to go after those Mexican drug cartels a little bit more aggressively. So for literally 3 days, I heard the far left in this country say that these tariffs would make Americans' lives worse off. And what actually happened is the Mexicans were so afraid of the tariffs that they actually are taking their border enforcement and their anti-cartel activity more seriously. That is not a pathway to making Americans worse off. That's a pathway to making Americans better off. Now, actually,
I mean, I
right tool for the job.
I am pleasantly surprised. I'm happy to admit that I am very pleasantly surprised at JD Vance. I like him a lot better than I thought I would.
Well, it's pretty clear that this is why Trump picked him. Like it's but he said we tried the Mike Pence thing, and that let's say that had mediocre results, to be polite. So but yeah, like the amount of winning here, so much winning. And this is what we voted for. And look, did you ever think you'd live in a timeline where the Democrats are like, hold on, more taxes, but what if that increases the price of goods and services? Really? Really? Okay, I'm gonna remember you said that.
Yeah, and I do not want to hear about political minutia affecting the price of goods and services from people who were demanding, fight for $20 an hour minimum wage, raise the minimum wage, tax the rich, increase corporate taxes. What?
If your dollars have more buying power, you don't need to make more money. That's the problem. Talked about it many, many, many times where, how many eggs I buy, how it was about $5 for the big giant carton, and now it's about $18 for the big giant carton. And that's the problem. The problem, oh man, wages have remained, relatively stagnant for the past 40 years. Yeah. And 40 years ago, you could buy a house and a car and you could take a nice vacation every year. And now you can't. Now you're just holding on by your fingernails, and it's because your dollar doesn't go as far. So, but again, look, lefties, you want to have the conversation about how the burden that is the theft of taxation are bad. I'm happy to have that chat. We could talk about that all day long. Really. Could you humor me? Could you flash up the other meme?
Wait, real quick, as you were, I'll pull that up. But you were saying, about having that chat with the lefties. I saw one earlier today, and it's one we've seen before. Just a 2% tax on the top 5 billionaires would pay for something or other, and maybe you missed it. There's a great book about it called The Monster from Jekyll Island. The income tax. We were promised that with the creation of the income tax and the IRS, it would only ever be 2%. It would never be more than a 2% tax on the wealthiest. And in fact, they were very specific on the coastal elite, wealthy New Englanders, multi-millionaires, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, by, within 10 years, within just 10 years, the top marginal tax rate was 90%. Right. That happened. So we could just tax the millionaires and billionaires. Yeah, we heard you say that before. And now, now people making less than six figures are losing half of their income to taxes. Well, people below six figures don't pay a 50% tax. They're not in a high. There is no income tax bracket that. You're right. There is no income tax bracket but you pay your income tax, then you pay your sales tax, then your gas tax, which is separate. Your whatever luxury taxes, vice tax, property tax, FICA, on and on and on. Half your money, at least half your money, goes away to taxes now. And that number is only accurate if we're being very generous and we don't take the time and the thought to calculate how much of the cost of goods before you pay sales taxes is the result of taxes on the importers, exporters, marketers, distributors, wholesalers, manufacturers, and retailers of those goods, right? You're paying the taxes for a half a dozen previous entities. When you buy at the end point of the retail, you're paying, a quarter to a half of the cost of the goods that you're purchasing is taxes that they're having to pay. Oh, well, Donald Trump wants to increase tax. It's a national sales tax, this tariff. Bitch, do corporate taxes now.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, yes. China hasn't folded yet, and I don't anticipate China folding the way other countries have. However,
I think China's going to come to the table with something, but they're not just going to go a complete, autoerotic asphyxiation like Trudeau did.
Well, culturally, they can't. That's just not how they operate. Like there has to be some back and forth, and you essentially have to allow those sort of Eastern cultures room to lose gracefully. Otherwise they'll refuse to concede. Again, going back to Japan, there's a reason why we dropped nukes on them, because we had to make the point. Otherwise, they weren't going to give up. Like, at that point, the war was lost. Japan was literally an island in and of itself with the entire world united against it. Once Berlin fell, once Hitler was dead, that should have been the end of the war. But the Japanese surrender occurred later, and that's important. So, but with what's going to happen with China is, I think you're right. I think they're going to come back to the table. There is going to have to be some negotiation. There's going to have to be some things that are said behind the scenes that we'll never know. But I don't doubt that the situation with China will improve. And the fact that we've done things like somehow magically Panama has just decided, you know what? Maybe we're going to stop renewing our contracts with the Chinese companies that control our ports. Maybe we're not going to renew our contracts with the Chinese companies that are building that superhighway that's supposed to go all the way from South America up to the American border. Gee, I wonder why China would want to fund something like that. We're already exerting so much pressure on them that something will happen there. It won't happen quickly, but it will happen. And you'll know it's working if Trump keeps saying things like, "Oh, President Xi, he's a reasonable guy. He's a good dude. We're working it out. We're working it out." That's how you'll know we're winning. All that stuff was like, "Oh, Donald Trump, like he praises dictators." Yes, he does. They're egomaniacal fucks. Of course you praise their egos. Of course you stroke their egos. That's how you get this done. So, but yeah, that's not at all tired of winning.
Come by my house sometime and see how the trash gets taken out. Hey, baby. Hey, my big, strong, handsome man.
Oh, yes, yeah. You'd be really sexy if you took the trash out. Well, it's not like I don't want to be really sexy.
And it works the other way too, right? I'll catch my wife in the kitchen making like chocolate chip cookies, and I'll tell her, your tits get bigger when you do that.
I was, buddy.
She loves that joke.
I was going to make a comment until you finished that sentence. And then I said, self, nope. I was actually going to talk about how pretty your wife is. And then I was like, nope, we're done. We're done. We're not going there.
Speaking of Indians, I want to wrap.
Wait, can we?
Oh, you want to do Dave? You want to do the thing?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, so pigs before rabbits.
Yeah.
I don't think you even know about the rabbits yet, Cameron.
Maybe I don't. Look, I
might be about to hurt you with the rabbits. Here's the that was the rabbits. We'll get back to that in a minute. Here's the pigs. David Hogg doesn't want to have kids. Prefers Porsche. Right, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Cameron and I did offline. That tells you all you need to know. David Hogg doesn't want to have kids, prefers a Porsche. My 14-year-old daughter thinks that she doesn't want to have kids. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
you're 14.
She's a kid.
You are a kid. You don't know shit about shit. That's okay. Your whole world is going to change every year until you're in your mid-20s, probably. Right? And that is there are some things. There are a few things, and I'm somebody who's old enough that I've had a few of these things happen. I might even write a book on this, on thresholds. There are certain thresholds in your life, right? When you're a teenager, when you're a young teenager, it might be virginity, right? Until you've crossed that threshold, you cannot adequately explain it. Or no, even after you've crossed that threshold, you cannot meaningfully transmit the information related to the experience. And that's one of the teeny tiniest of them. I'm going to tell you this one. until you've had children, you cannot express to another person what it means to have children if they have not done that. Until you have spent time in combat, right? And once you have spent time, you cannot understand what it means to be in a gunfight until you've actually done it. You cannot understand what it means to be a parent until you've actually done it, right? There are thresholds like that throughout your life. And I mean, hell, even jumping out of an airplane, parachuting, skydiving, stuff like that. Those are kind of minor things. You can explain, well, you get an adrenaline rush, this, that, the other. You can explain the experience with words, but you cannot transmit the value of the experience and what it means to a person who has not yet had the experience. And when you're talking about something like becoming a parent, that's a huge change. That's gigantic, right? And you can explain that to another person. You can tell them it's the best thing you've ever done. And for some people, it's not. For some people, it's a miserable experience. Some people have shitty kids. Some people are shitty parents and their kids grow up to be shitty because they didn't get beat or do push-ups enough, right? My kids do great push-ups, and people in public tell us, wow, your kids are really well behaved. I'm like, yeah, we abused them into that, right? But some people, or people cannot understand what it means to cross that threshold, and that's perfectly exemplified here with David Hogg. And it's another part of the reason that when we talk about the 16th Amendment, no, the 19th Amendment. Damn it, women voting.
That's the 19th.
Yeah, the 19th. If you are not, if you haven't had kids, okay. I broke my own train of thought. I've talked in the past about how I would change the electoral requirements. I would say married, landowner, with children, net positive taxpayer. Right? And that's how it used to be. Right. Skin of the game.
That's the important part.
Game, right? Originally, the idea was one vote per household, and you had to be a landowner, because if you don't live here, then you don't get to tell us what we do here. Right? If you're not a resident of the county, if you're not a landowner in the county, you don't matter. If you're just a renter in the county, then there's nothing to suggest that you're going to be here for a long period or have been here for any substantial period. Your opinion doesn't matter, right? Because you don't get to dictate to the people who have to live here how they're going to live here, ongoing. So we see this headline from David Hogg.
Now, to be clear, this is actually from a few years ago. It resurfaced. I know. And if it's all right with you, buddy, I'm actually gonna have it pulled up. What he tweeted was, "I'm never planning on having kids. I would much rather own a Porsche and have a Portuguese water dog and golden doodle. Long term, it's cheaper, better for the environment, and will never tell you that it hates you or ask you to pay for college." So basically, David Hogg would rather have a car and a dog because they don't talk back. Like, that's... And why is this important? Because he just got elected vice chair of the DNC, and even said in his victory speech that the Democrat Party needs to prove that they care about their young people again. And of all this, Chris, the thing that just shocked me the most,
when he put his fist up and said, we have to fight.
No, I didn't know David Hogg was straight.
Is he?
Apparently.
I mean, I've seen pictures of that skinny little boy. I'm a little surprised he's not in a training bra yet.
Yeah, if we weren't on YouTube, there's a specific word for British cigarettes that I would use to describe him with, because, buddy, there's there's a reason why that pejorative is a pejorative, and it
Yeah, I thought it was a
applies.
transvestite.
Say what?
I just thought she was a transvestite.
Yeah. Here's the thing. And look, Chris, I don't know if you've seen the video of the outgoing chair holding elections to elect the new board. I swear to God, it's like a sketch off Mad TV.
Oh,
because
you got the big old round chick with the giant string of beads leaning on her chair, trying to look all gangster, and then she starts singing.
No. Okay, look, go back and watch it, because he's trying to explain the rules about how they have to have a balanced commission board, and the stuff with the difference between the non-binary, and you've got to have 3 men and you got to have 3 women, and the gender language is so confusing. He keeps tripping over his own words over and over and over again. And seriously, it's one of those things where you expect to show up in the Not the Bee feed, because that's what it is. Anyhow, Hogg has been elected the vice chair, and seriously, if there are any Democrats
it's
that
a
are
clear
watching,
indication that they've learned nothing.
that's where I was going. Yeah, if there are any Democrats that are watching this, okay, you are free to continue to test that assumption at your inconvenience. If you think David Hogg is going to bring young men back into your party, okay, sure. You know what? Sun Tzu said, never interrupt your enemy while he's making a mistake. So you go right on ahead with that strategy, because men like David Hogg, and I use that term super loosely, cause visceral disgust in guys like me. I don't expect everybody to be Arnold Schwarzenegger and Conan the Barbarian. That's not realistic. But good grief, like, just all the unctuous, effeminate effete, and the faux outrage and the snark and all of that. Those guys, once upon a time, a long time ago, before all the anti-bullying stuff came into being, those guys would get punched in the face until they learned to shut the fuck up. And then this magical thing would happen. They'd realize, I don't have to act like a thunder cunt. I could just be a normal dude, and more people will like me. And so, sure, you want David Hogg calling the shots? Yeah. Good for you, buddy. Good for you.
Please, more of this.
Yeah, do you just want to hand us the 20? Look, because historically, Donald Trump should lose the 2026 midterms. The Republicans should get their clock cleaned in the 2026 midterms. But you go right ahead. You keep putting people like David Hogg in charge of winning that election. Let's see how that works out for you.
Yeah, please put David Hogg on your ticket against JD Vance in 2028. Please, God. I want to live in that reality. Okay, so here's what I want to close on. Give this about 5 or 10 minutes tops, probably. Tim Pool tweeted this a couple days ago before we saw the actual results. You know, it took almost no time for Canada to just quit. It got 2.8 million views on this, which is obvious trolling, right? This is Tim Pool. He is notoriously a troll on Twitter. He goes on and says funny shit. But after we destroy the Canadian economy, their will to resist will erode. We will then march in unopposed and deliver Canada to its rightful place as a territory of the U.S. with no political representation. Okay. Now, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that particular statement or comment, Cameron.
Well, he was Nostradamus there,
right? And And I think generally we all understand that he was making a joke. Well, somebody emailed him a death threat.
Yeah, I've seen the death threat. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna grape your mother in front of you.
Yeah, and we're not going to read it out loud, but I wanted to draw your attention right here. He says we're going to sell her into sex slavery to a pack of rabbit Indians. Not rabid Indians. Rabbit Indians.
Well, they have to look at their bobs and their vagines. Like it's
There were 2 million views on the tweet where Tim Pool shared the email. And he didn't even draw attention to it. No. Twitter just noticed it and they went to work.
no doubt this I haven't seen.
And I mean, they went to work all damn day.
God, I love the internet.
This is the internet. This is the internet chewing your throat out. Chewing your throat out over a spelling error. And my man, this is what AI is for. And I love that they're not all like the Native American type Indians. It's like, what kind of rabbit Indians? You've got some sheiks and some squaws. And it just keeps going on and on.
Be careful going down that thread. When you go far enough down these threads, you tend to see things that are not YouTube friendly.
If we go too far down the thread, I'm sure it'll get nasty.
Yeah, there will. Any long thread on Twitter ends up having titties. Like it's
yes, it does.
It's just once you get about 10 or 20 posts down, you should just stop. You should just stop. Yeah, that's
yeah. And y'all, rabbit Indians. This is not a mere spelling error. This is a person who's heard the word and never read it, doesn't understand what the word is. Right? Rabbis, Rabbis, right? Because the S is right next to the D on the keyboard. The T is on the opposite side of the keyboard. This person thought they knew what they were doing. They thought they were using the correct word. They didn't misspell the right word. They used the wrong word.
Or that speech to text stabbed them in the back. Like it's
maybe, but this wasn't a tweet. That was an email that he sent.
No, I'm clear. I'm just making the joke. But oh my God, that's hysterical. Yeah,
oh,
I wish we I wish we had more. I hated missing yesterday's show a lot because I have heard, and I will quote her because she and Alex do a pretty fantastic show, the TPS Report. Danny, the co-host, made the point that it's worth noting that U.S. aid does some good things, and that this will create a gap, and we need to be careful about allowing other countries to fill the gap. And man, I'm gonna have to disagree with that. When something is rotten.
Oh, thank God. I thought I was going to have to explain it to you.
No, when something is rotten, like nobody ever wants to have their leg amputated. But sometimes when you have gangrene, that's the only thing you can do is amputate the leg. Otherwise, you kill the person. And I just learned this yesterday, that the Soros DAs, for example. Yeah, it turns out that their biggest funder is USAID. I always thought it was Soros because we refer to them as the Soros DAs. He's putting his thumb on the scale, affecting local elections, which is a smart, sound political strategy. Had no clue that USAID was part of it. Anyhow, I'm not trying to drag us in all kind of different directions. I really wish I could have been on for yesterday's show because, whoo, buddy. And anybody who squeals over USAID, yeah, they're part of the problem. Like that is a hit dog will holler right there.
Right. Just yesterday and today, early this morning, I've been finding posts on X where, your Chuck Schumers, your Pelosi's, all
AOC.
Pocahontas. AOC was one that I hit. All these Democrat senators and Congress people are just railing about what an awful thing it is for USAID to end. And since after the show yesterday morning, every time I see one of those, I've been saying, huh, and commenting and attaching a link to their open secrets profile. Let's see, hey, let's all take a look at your open secrets profile and see how much U.S. aid money is being laundered into your most recent election efforts, your most recent political campaign. And when you start looking at those things, like you'll see BlackRock on there a lot. For Democrat funding.
Not BlackRock.
Yeah. But the other thing to note is, and it's not every law firm, right? Some of them are little local mom and pop law firms or whatever. But anytime you see a big law firm donating to a Democrat, there is a high degree of probability that what they've done is applied for U.S. aid funding to do that. And even more probably, what they've got is, they're like a Perkins Coie for the Clinton campaign, where some other organization gets the money and then launders it through the law firm back into the Democrat Party.
Yeah, we didn't fund gain of function research in Wuhan. Now the organization we funded
an organization that funded an organization that funded an organization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you were watching an episode of Breaking Bad, it would be the bad guys doing this. Just right. FYI. Anyhow,
that's a tough one though, because everybody in Breaking Bad is the bad guys, except for the cripple kid. Like he's the only redeeming character in that whole show. Well, no, okay, the cripple kid and the DEA agent. He's actually a solid guy. Hank is a bit of a dickhead, but he's actually a solid American.
Well, Hank was supposed to represent the good guy taken to an arrogant level of extreme. Like he right. had his brother-in-law was literally cooking meth practically under his nose and didn't notice. Like I think you're correct. The cripple kid is the only one who was a good guy. Like even Hank was actually a bad guy because of his arrogance. So there's a lesson there. Anyhow, brother, I'd love to keep going. Like I really would, but
no, I understand. I've got shit to do too. We cut up a tree out here yesterday, and now I've got to go chop it into firewood. So thanks for watching this morning, guys. We love you. Y'all be safe. Hit that link below. Buy me a coffee. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.
All right, brother.